Welcome to Supervising from Home Part 2, Difficult Conversations. My name is Ruth Colon Wagner, and I'm the Director of Training and Development for NIAPers. And my partner in crime today is?
My name is Rob Statham. I am a training and technical assistance facilitator for NIAPers in the western and central regions of the state.
All right, awesome. So welcome everyone. Again, you may already notice that you're muted and you're off camera. And so what we'd like for you to do is stay that way. And sometimes Zoom is a little tricky, and so it may even allow you to get on camera or to unmute yourself. And so we just ask you to please stay off camera and stay muted. And actually, we'd like for you to go a step further, because in case of any glitches, any technical glitches on our end, we'd like for you to mute yourself on whatever technology you're using, whether that's a computer or a handheld device. If you can mute yourself that way, please also do that. I know you've all been on webinars where there's just too much noise, so we're doing our best to keep this nice and smooth. Okay, so that doesn't mean that we don't want to communicate with you. We absolutely do. And so throughout the presentation, we're going to stop and we're going to ask you questions. Please notice that you have a chat box feature, and that is how we'd like for you to communicate with us and answer those questions. So there'll be a couple of breaks, not real breaks, but question breaks, where we're going to ask you, the audience, some questions, and then we're going to have a question and answer period at the end. And we have a lot of content, so we're just going to try to go through this as quickly as possible so that we could honor the time that we spend with you asking questions and hearing your answers. Now, to make your experience a little bit better, you'll notice at the top of your Zoom screen that there is a presenter view icon. And there goes my technology, sorry about that. So on the top of the screen, and that is a white triangle with 3 white dots on top. That way you can see only the person who's talking. That is what's called presenter view. So before we continue, I want to thank Eileen and Daniela, who are behind the scenes today supporting our webinar. And this is who we are. NIAPers is the New York Association of Psychiatric Rehabilitation Services. We are a change agent organization, and we improve services, public policies, and social conditions for people with mental health, substance use, and trauma-related challenges. And we do this by promoting their health, their wellness, recovery, and full community inclusion so that everyone can live a life, their maximum potential in the community of their choice. And we do this by advocating, educating, demonstrating, and innovating. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to participate in our Start Your Workday Mindfully, a daily NIAPers 5-minute retreat. It's literally maybe 5 minutes, a little bit more than 5 minutes. And as a response to COVID back in March, we wanted to take care of the behavioral health workforce, and we wanted to be a part of your healing. So we decided to provide you with daily mindfulness exercises to support your overall wellness. Since we began, we've heard from many of you and how you've incorporated this, not just into your day and your healing ritual, but you've also brought them into your virtual groups with the people that you work with. And I just love that. And thank you so much for paying it forward that way. So we hope that you continue. We're pretty excited. This has already gone international, and we want you to continue watching as well. This is an initiative. Strive for 5 is an initiative in collaboration with the Coalition for Behavioral Health located in New York City, and the idea is simple. Every day, you reach out to 5 people to check in on them. Quarantining is very lonely, especially for people who are compromised. And even though things are starting to open up, they continue to quarantine. So be that connection for 5 people every day and encourage them to do the same. We already have this spread overseas, this initiative, and we want to encourage you to spread this in your professional life and in your personal life. It's just a fabulous thing to do. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the CEUs. Yes, I know, I need CEUs too all the time. We are offering 1 hour CE. And that's for social workers, so LMSW, LCSW, mental health counselors, so licensed mental health counselors, and CPRP, certified psychiatric rehabilitation counselors. In order for you to qualify, I need to match your attendance today with a completed evaluation. So the Zoom system will send to you via email an evaluation form, and they'll do that within 24 hours. And we ask that you please complete that and submit it, and it will automatically come to us. Now, our usual turnaround time is 30 business days. However, we ask you to please be gentle with us because we are processing literally thousands of CEs every single month. NIAPRS has stepped up our game, and we've got a lot of webinars going on and with thousands of people attending. So we thank you for your patience. This is me. You can read it. I'm not going to read it to you, but the idea is here for you to know that I've been in the field, in the helping profession for 30 years, and 25 of those 30 in leadership positions. And now regarding our actual topic today, supervising from home, I've done that throughout my tenure with NIAPRS. So for the past 6 years, I've been supervising a remote team, and I've been working remotely. So I feel like I know a thing or two about supervising remotely. Rob?
Oh, this is me. I will let people know that I have both supervisory experience in the nonprofit world for about 10 years, and actually outside of the nonprofit world in hotel management for about 7 years. So my experience is on both nonprofit and for-profit. But when people look at this slide, Ruth, it's funny that they zero in on the boy band thing.
And that's my favorite part of your whole experience.
So that is true. And it was a great deal of fun.
And if we had enough time, I'd love for you to sing to us.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Maybe.
All right, the objectives for today are to identify the steps necessary for successful outcomes when facing difficult conversations, and then to describe the transactional analysis approach and its role in effective communications. That says conversations, but same thing. Okay. So on May 1st, in collaboration with the Center for Practice Innovations, we held the first Supervising from Home. And back then, remember, this was May 1st, many of you were fairly new to working from home. And as I mentioned before, I'm not. But it was just really wonderful putting this information together for you. You actually can find the recording. We have it on our website. And so tinker around our website and you'll find it. Or you can go directly to our YouTube channel and it might be there, but I actually forget that. Just go directly to our website. All right, I'd like for you to have an opportunity to see this. So during this webinar, we talked about several things and I put them there on the screen. Number one, how to increase communication. And we also had many examples how to do that. How to build a strong relationship with each person that you supervise and how to do that remotely, which is a little tricky. We also talked about building a strong team and we shared many activities on how this can be done. And finally, we discussed work productivity and strategies to support your staff. So I'm glad you're here for part 2. And if you didn't see part 1, you can see that later, anytime you wish. All right, now I'm going to pass it along to Rob.
Thank you, Ruth. So we thought that we would start out with a pretty pertinent question, kind of find out where people are at right now regarding supervision and the fact that we're now doing remotely. So the $1 million question here is, what challenges have you experienced since supervising from home? And you can chat some of your answers into the chat box. We have people monitoring that to take a look at your responses for that. We do know that there has been challenges. We've had to learn very, very quickly this new way in which to supervise people and actually just in relating to people.
This is interesting. The most senior staff person continues to quote unquote forget to sign in. This is going very fast. Let's keep an eye on this. Yeah. Staff not having their Zoom scheduled, Zoom meeting scheduled. Lack of response from the staff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Technology issues probably too, I would imagine.
That's right. That's right. unable to print documents, others technology, stress of the staff in general. Technology keeps coming up.
Mm.
Not having enough time to properly supervise, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Not having people accountable for their work. Yes, absolutely. See the May 1st webinar. Definitely going to talk about that, and you'll hear strategies today as well. Lack of,
I see the word accountability a lot in all of the exchanges going on in the show.
managing staff that have their own struggles with working from home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, working from home, people think, oh, that's lovely, you must enjoy your job. It really is not all wonderful. It can be very, very difficult to work differently.
Certainly.
Yeah, not being able to see the staff face to face and to support them.
Yeah.
Right. Staff struggle to feel connected to work.
Yeah, not being fully present with a person, not being able to see body language,
Right.
reactions, those kinds of things are you need to see those things.
Some person here, Ashley, actually says, yes, blocks of time on the calendar, and they don't appear to be used towards work activity.
Mm.
Yeah, very interesting. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Staff feeling disconnected from others.
Right.
Supervisors not checking in with employees. We're going to address that today.
Mm-hmm.
Empathizing with people's individual personal stressors, but still emphasizing their need to perform. That's it, Lori.
Yep.
That is it. That's the golden ticket. Balancing feelings for them and keeping accountable. Accountability of time. Yeah, there's a lot of trends here.
Yeah. Hard to manage workflow, that kind of thing.
That's right. Supporting staff with high-risk clients, but managing their own personal issues at the same time.
Well,
Software wasn't set up on laptop. I mean, the technology issues keep going and going.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone,
Nope.
for sharing that.
So why don't we go to the next slide, Ruth?
Sure.
So obviously, after having a disciplinary conversation with people, I mean, which person would you, how would you describe yourself having that conversation with people? Obviously, we want to be the person on my left, maybe you're right, but, and because we all avoid these things, because they're tough, they're very difficult conversations to have. I would venture to guess that, you know, we don't like it just as much as the person that is receiving these, on the receiving end of this conversation. So part of it is, and we'll be talking about this later, is actually just preparing for the conversation and helping actually prepare the person for that conversation as well. Next slide, Ruth. So another key thing, because we dislike it so much, what happens to, or do we do things to avoid supervision? And what happens when we skip supervision? What are some of the, some things that can happen as a result of skipping supervision with people? So we'll have people type their responses in the chat box and talk a little bit about some of the responses. Ruth, if you could kind of monitor that.
Will do.
Yeah, I see things like staff feeling unsupported. You know, problems can escalate if we don't address them.
Total disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really lost.
People don't feel valued. Yeah. Feel like it's just them.
Lots of miscommunication when you're not communicating. Unmotivated. We're not maybe assisting in their time management.
I like this one. Important information gets lost.
That's right. That's right. And I would say now it's easier for us to skip the supervision. And we can blame it on technology or whatever, and that may be true for some, but even rescheduling, we need to be able to keep our supervision on track with people, because it sends a message. When we skip supervision with this person, it sends that message. All these messages that we're receiving in the chat box, it's that important.
Here, I love this one. I'm just going to emphasize one last one. Adam says, denies opportunity for staff input and check-in.
Yeah, yeah. And I would venture to guess that it is so important for people to feel like they matter, especially now. I mean,
Hmm.
when we're talking about supervision, it's actually more than just supervision. It's just someone that may care about them. And it's really important that people feel valued when they're so disconnected from everyone
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
And so we can't be skipping supervision. It's just too important not to. Ruth, if you could go to the next slide for a minute, and this kind of goes into what we're talking about, what happens when people skip supervision. Again, we had lots of comments of not feeling valued, not feeling mattered, um, not being able to see where the next opportunities come from. I think that's important too, because your supervisor could be the person that is giving people this information. And when you're not meeting with this person consistently, that kind of can go by the wayside as well. We do know that the work that we do is both important and hard, especially now. And so we work with people who have had a tremendous trauma in their lives, and the people that we that are working with those individuals may have secondary trauma. So we need to be able to support people as we are supervising them as well, so that we can't let that opportunity go missed. Okay, Ruth, the next slide. So, and this is very typical of supervising people, and that people are people and something will always go wrong. Now, when we're talking about supervising people now, it may be as simple as the person's not getting on camera when they have that ability to get on camera. I mean, part of the supervisor, the effective supervising people virtually is actually being able to see them. And so, and seeing somewhat of the reactions that we need to see. So that could be a barrier to really providing effective supervision. Or, and we mentioned in the chat room, I saw several comments in the chat room about people being late or forgetting that they have a supervisory meeting. Maybe they didn't get the Zoom link or whatever. But that is an issue as well. So we're managing people. And we know that, just as the slide says, people are people. And the supervisory relationship is so important that I have heard many a time that people do not quit where they work. They actually quit for supervisors. They don't quit jobs, they quit supervisors. That really is a huge demonstration of how important it is to have supervision with people. And back to the slide here, we know that some people may have unprofessional attire that they come to the Zoom meeting in.
Someone actually mentioned that at the first Supervising from Home webinar, that
uh,
one of their staff was coming to work on camera in a bathrobe.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we know there's some things about the environment that we may not be able to control. Maybe we forget to turn our phone off, and it's ringing, or Snuffy the cat kind of wanders by. But there are some things that we can control, and we can certainly control the way that we're dressed and how we're handling ourselves from a professional standpoint. So you have to know which to kind of address in the role of this virtual relationship that we're having with people now. Next slide. So obviously there are some considerations that we have to take into account when meeting with people, and especially now they're different. Obviously technology probably heads that list. Taking a little bit of time to make sure that I am ready as a supervisor, my technology is working properly, and that I'm able to use it effectively in connecting with the person virtually. Because when we don't do that, let me tell you, I've been on webinars where technology does not work. It is very stressful. It's very anxiety provoking. So again, when we kind of nip that and are more prepared for when things happen, we actually are helping the person that we're supervising become more relaxed in our relationship as well. We also want to be very specific. We don't want to dilute any message. If there's a purpose to the conversation, we don't want to move away from that purpose. We don't want to sugarcoat things. especially if we're talking about a corrective action. We are there for the purpose of this corrective action meeting, and we want to address it. When we don't do that, we dilute the message, and we certainly don't want to dilute the message. We want to be very clear why we're here in this meeting today. We do know that virtually it is sometimes hard to stay focused. There are distractions around you. You just want to make sure that you limit the distractions that you can limit and ask your employee to do the same. And keep in mind, it is difficult to sometimes be in a meeting for an hour or past that hour mark.
You know, and like when you're at home, and so you have all the normal distractions of home. If you have another adult or older children, you have the ability to close your door, ensure that your children are being supervised. But even if you don't have kids, you know, just even having the dog in the
Yeah,
room and barking is a distraction. And so
certainly.
we're talking about reducing as many distractions as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's also important that we maintain our authority. And sometimes I've seen supervisors who try to be buddies rather than the supervisory role. There's a reason why we're the supervisor. It is to maintain somewhat of control and order of the situation and to manage. And when we veer down the road of just buddies, it doesn't work. And also, the relationship is crucial. You're probably, if you've seen me train before, I'm always talking about the relationship that you have with people, but it's just as important. The relationship that you have with this person matters. And so they view you as a authority. So use it.
Yes,
Um,
you can maintain your authority and be friendly
absolutely.
without being a chum chum buddy. And that's really important because that really can dilute not just the relationship, but then any corrective action that's going to need to happen. And
And,
so it's a wonderful time when there's no issues. You know, obviously when there are issues, you need to address it head on, but imagine when there's no issues and everything's wonderful. Start to redefine that relationship from chum chum to just professional and friendly.
and it's,
That'll
and
help you in the long run.
yeah, but it's so easy to confuse those things in a video virtual relationship because lots of us talk to our friends on Zoom. It's just a normal conversation. And so it's really important that we maintain that authority in this virtual relationship that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're discussing, you need to have facts to support your position. Maybe that would mean your policy and procedure handbook pointing things out. Or just specific examples to share of why we're having this conversation. Maybe it's the proof of what has occurred. It's also important to note that the history of the problem, maybe this is something that this person has been working on with past supervisors and it still continues to be a problem. It is in our best interest to take a look at the whole problem and address it from the beginning of it, so to speak. And because we may see progress related to maybe this person had some kind of issue and they've actually made some progress. I think actually it's important to help this person see that they've made progress, but they're not there yet, and to keep working on things. And we can't really do that unless we see the whole picture. And I think they're expecting that of you as well.
You know,
Next
I
slide.
think some people might have experienced productivity problems or just some overall job performance problems. And then maybe things started to get better. And then COVID happened. They're working remotely and things got exacerbated again. It's just a wonderful time, not just to be a support to your staff, but to work on that corrective action, teach them what needs to be done, how to work from home differently, how to address the issue. Because if it was an issue before COVID, it's an issue after COVID. They just look slightly different. That still means that it's just an issue that needs to be dealt with.
And maybe a great time to reset the relationship. It's different now.
Right?
Next slide. So we always talk about the do's and don'ts of supervision, and some of these are very familiar to people. The best day and time. Conducting the meeting on camera obviously is going to be a person, pretty important. And Ruth and I had a discussion on this third bullet, which was knowing when to bring in another person. And it's a lot easier, obviously, for the office. We're in the office, we can bring in another person. It may be a bit more difficult to do that via Zoom. But it is important that if you need another person there, to bring in that person, whether that's HR, whether that's a co-supervisor, to have somebody there that can kind of monitor the situation and maybe even moderate to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you
Um,
know, this doesn't really apply for your regular supervision sessions. That we're still addressing the difficult overall conversations. And so just for a second, Rob, going back to that first bullet, consider the best day and time. If you in human resources were going to let someone go, that's a difficult conversation. So
yeah,
I would be in touch with my human resource department, figuring out along with them what's the best day and time.
yeah,
Now, that being said, your regular supervision, that's why we talked about regular supervision in the beginning. If you're having consistent regular supervision, then you're addressing these issues and how they're improving or not improving at every supervision. That way, if one day you need to sit them down and say, we really need to talk about this, that it's not a surprise.
yeah, yeah. And it's actually not debatable.
That's right.
You know, we've taken the time to kind of see what's going on, and now we're kind of using our authority, so to speak, to really have this important conversation with this person. And when we sugarcoat it, again, we're doing this person a disservice. The relationship that you build with this person should be a supportive one, where if they do kind of go down the path of maybe messing up in an area, the reason why you are helping this person correct them in this difficult conversation is because you value the relationship that you have with them, and they know that based on that relationship. Any of these other bullets are just as important, to be compassionate in the way that we are providing and having these difficult conversations. There's lots of resources out there. Most of us have EAPs that we can refer people to that do tremendous work. And that's just sending the message that you care about what happens after they leave this room, having this difficult conversation. It also is important that we follow up, that we just don't have this conversation and not talk to them for a week, because we've given them some really critical information to kind of ponder, and then we don't have the follow-up, whether it be by email or virtually now, to help them along the path to really mentor or coach this person once we've noted that there is maybe a problem with their performance, and we've noted it in this difficult conversation. To just kind of send them away and hope they can figure it out is not a very nice thing to do. So it's consistently meeting, mentoring this person along the way so they can get better in their performance. So it really takes what I would consider consistent communication for that to happen.
I like your idea of just checking in even.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Some more on the difficult conversations. So sometimes when we meet with people and they know they're coming in for a difficult conversation, they're going to be worked up. We know that. When I was in my heyday of supervising people, it was really interesting. The words that I chose had such an impact on people. I would say to somebody, I really need to see you in my office. And the anxiety just went right up. And maybe it didn't mean anything. However, if I change those words to, do you have a minute that you could spare with me? I just want to see you for a minute. The anxiety was not there. So the words that I communicated with the person were really impactful in terms of both calming or having their anxiety rise. And so there's lots of things that we can do to help calm that person besides the language that we use. Maybe we do a quick breathing exercise with them, or a mindfulness moment with that person. If we're in the office, we could offer tea or water, but we could suggest that they get something to drink virtually. The taking a break, that's kind of the last resort. Ruth, I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, one of the major concerns there is that people use that as an escape. So, oh, I need a break. And then the actual virtual room goes away and they're taking a break, however long it is that they feel that they need a break. What we need to do is help address the issue, not for us not to escape it and for them not to escape it. That's why it's so important to use some of these strategies to help them when they're worked up. And taking that break really just doesn't do it. So maintaining the connection via Zoom or whatever virtual platform you're using while they go and they get water or they make coffee or they make tea. But the intention is the room is still open and I'm waiting for you to come back to the desk.
Right, right. Obviously, there's going to be emotion involved on maybe both of our parts, but we don't want to stick or stay with that emotion. We know that people will be worked up. We want to validate the emotions that they're feeling, but really stay focused on the message and the facts regarding the performance and regarding why we're having this conversation with people. And we want to connect, and we kind of just added this, we want to connect the performance to before COVID and since working remotely, because it's changed dramatically. The way in which people are working has changed. And so you may have somebody that's on your staff that was working fine before COVID. And now COVID's kind of thrown them in terms of maybe they're having trouble managing their time or getting online when they should. For meetings and things like that. Maybe they're managing the schoolwork of their children. So we have to keep all of these things in mind that, people have a lot more going on now than they ever had before. And so as a supervisor, I think it's important to note those things, not excuse them, but to note those things that are going on in this person's life. And obviously connecting that to their performance, because it may be having some kind of an impact on their performance. And obviously facts. Ask the supervisee to describe only the facts, not the emotion behind it. We will get lost in that emotion. We will never go back, and we don't want to do that. Then we have the opportunity to describe the facts as we see them as well. Ruth. So the point of view is important too. We want to examine all points of view, all their point of view, our point of view. And then we want to test their interpretation and assumptions to the facts that we're presenting. So how do they view those facts? How do they see themselves with the facts that we just presented? We also want to begin to identify a goal in solving the problem. We're not there just to talk about the problem. We're there to take a look at solutions to their problems, to things that are going on in their work life. We want to, it's important to note what they are and to record them on a piece of paper or a memo, or you can even use the chalkboard here on Zoom and share your, put together the list together. To ensure buy-in, we want people to write their own correction action plan based on the conversation that we had in this meeting. And so Ruth, I'm going to have you expand a little bit upon that as to why would we want someone to write their own correction action plan?
Yeah, I know it's very typical for supervisors to feel like this is a corrective action plan needs to be written by them, but it actually doesn't need to. And the reason is we don't need to be in control of all of that. We're in control of what is agreed upon in the meeting. So in the meeting, we're saying, this is the issue. How can we solve this? And then that discussion together, you come up with a verbal corrective action plan and then leave it in their hands to write it up by a given date. And that way, they, just by the very nature of having to write it and having to put pen to paper, so to speak, they are not just buying in, but then become more and more aware in the front of their memory what every step entails and how that relates to their job. And if you write it for them, they're not part of that process. So we're bringing them into the process. They were in the planning process in terms of the conversation with you, the supervisor, and then they're finishing the process by actually documenting everything.
And it's important because they become owners of this document, really. And because no one likes to be told what to do. You're presenting them with a document that you wrote, you're telling them what to do, basically. We want that buy-in because we want them to follow up regarding the solutions. We want to explore some of the threats as well, maybe our own observations and check-ins and making sure that things are going well and we're accurate in what we're seeing. We want to challenge any judgments, any absolutes, any black and white thinking or very thinking that may shut people down, so to speak, as well.
And just because it's virtual, that doesn't mean there are not going to be any threats. So it's still important to explore them. I had a situation in person where I had to deal with an employee with a gun. Now, we're not going to have that issue virtually, but the idea is the same. Be aware. And if you see virtually on camera that someone is just on edge, their personality has changed or whatever it is that you observe, call them out on it in a very professional way. Say, Jane, I'm a little concerned about what you just said or the way you're acting. You seem really, really upset. Not just a little mad, but like a lot of mad. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah.
So in your own way, in your own style, that was my way, my style, you query the person because you don't want them to just keep getting hyped up and deeper into these emotions until,
Right.
whatever explodes.
Yeah, and we'll stay there if we don't move on from those emotions.
That's right.
Next slide. Continuing the difficult conversations, we're going to help the supervisee to develop certain strategies. And we'll choose this the solution that we're both kind of working on, an action plan that fits the goals that are likely to work for this person. So this person has input into the solutions as well, which is, again, that's the buy-in that we're talking about. Maybe this person is unsure, and maybe we help this person kind of formulate what will work best for this person. And that could mean a pro and con list that we put together. So they can compare side by side with what would be the best course for them or best solution for them to fix the issue. It's also from the orientation to the disciplinary process, it's good to orient this person to the disciplinary process. Maybe they've never had any disciplinary processes with your organization before. Walk them through that. A person who's in there for a disciplinary meeting, they're anxious. They don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, is it 3 written warnings I get, or is it 1 written warning and then I'm let go? They're thinking all of these things in their head. So it's important for you to set the table for them to understand this is the process. This is what it looks like. If anything, that actually happens to diffuse their anxiety about being in this meeting at all. And obviously, this helps this person kind of navigate what would happen next in the worst case scenario. And obviously, as we mentioned before, consistent weekly supervision is key. General follow-up to any of our difficult conversations has to happen. Next slide.
And there's a little guy there rolling his eyes because I know some supervisors really are against the weekly supervision. Now, that may be the case, and it's okay if on a regular basis you supervise every other week. However, when you've had these difficult conversations, you need to increase the supervision. So if you had been doing every 2 weeks, well, now you're going to do every week until things get better. And then you and the person can decide if you go back to weekly.
And we'll call it a supervision meeting, but maybe it's a mentoring session, to help people through the process of the corrective action.
Right. Okay.
All right. So this slide just talks about safety in the context of the relationship and the consistency with virtual supervision and training. We have to be consistent with that. If we had once a week supervision before COVID, we should be continuing it during COVID as well. All these things are just super important, from fostering that positive and collaborative working relationship with that person. being supportive, professional, and recognizing skills and traits that this person may have that are actually great for the organization that this person is working for us. And so the question at the bottom says, who is responsible for creating safety? It's actually both people, the supervisor and the supervisee. Next group.
You know, I just wanted to stop and say that I've been looking at the chat box, and there's some great questions that we may not be able to get to right now. However, I want you out there who have these questions, some of these we actually address as, you know, NIAPers, we address them during our regular trainings. And so please reach out to me and I can connect you to the trainer in your region and they could do a training specific to your organization. I mean, there's a question here is, you know, what if the corrective action doesn't get done on time, or person says that they have no solutions, there are no expectations. All those are great conversations for us to have, and we do address those, and we will. Just give me an email, send me an email, we could do that. All right, next slide, right?
Yep. So a supervision contract may be necessary, which kind of outlines the frequency and duration. It talks about why are we meeting? What are the goals of supervision? What needs to be addressed? What do you want to see addressed? What does the person want to see addressed? And then we're building in skills and competencies and additional things, maybe opportunities or development that they would like to see themselves. One of the best things that you can do for a person that you're supervising is develop them. Give them additional skills, help them learn additional skills so they can move beyond you and do bigger and better things. Believe me, they will remember you for those things, that you were the developer of them. You helped them develop maybe even out of their position. People will definitely remember you for that. And it takes both parts. We know that, especially when things aren't going smoothly. Ruth? So I love this quote. I just learned about it when I was putting this training together with Ruth, but I'll just read it. It says, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. So sometimes it's the rough portions of being on that ocean that actually help us to be better people and certainly be better supervisors. Ruth?
Okay, great. So now we're going to discuss transactional analysis. And I want you to imagine mindfulness. If you engage in any mindfulness practice at all, you can understand that it's sort of stopping your mind from going to the past, stopping your mind from worrying about the future, and just focusing on the now. And so as we go on through this, I want you to think about that transactional analysis is focusing on the right now and what's happening right now. So this is an effective communication technique for the workplace. It was developed in the 1950s by Eric Berne, and the basis of the theory is that everyone has three different ego states. They have the parent ego state, adult ego state, and a child ego state. And these different ego states can result in a variety of thoughts and behaviors and feelings and reactions and outbursts. And they cause us to have these different interactions with the people around us. So let's just go through parent very quickly. These behaviors are learned from our parents, and they're important, and other important people in our life, and we learn that through our childhood. The parent ego state can be both a critical one and a supportive one, and that's pretty self-explanatory when you think about a parent. Sometimes they have to be critical, and of course, sometimes supportive. Now, the middle one, the adult ego state, is the state that relates to the here and now, rather than things you learned during your childhood. And this is often thought to be the most rational part of our personality. And then we've got the child ego state, and it's one that goes back to the behaviors we learned during our childhood. So depending on the influences we had around us, the child ego state can be free, or it can be strongly linked to parental influences, and that could even be struggling influences, you know, something that's not rational. Now I want you to pay attention to this, and we're going to get a little deep into it, not too much because it's not really relevant. The connection here with the transactional analysis is that we want you to stay in the green zone, right? We want you to recognize and understand transactional analysis, to understand when you are doing all of these black lines, when you are in a parent state speaking to another adult, but you're speaking to them as if you're a parent and they're a child. Or you're in a petulant child state, for example, and yet you're speaking to someone else who's acting in the same ego state. So it can be very difficult. The best thing is why I got a beach scene. That's my mindfulness thing. It's whenever I see a beach, I go, all right, sit back, breathe, think about the moment. What is the best thing to do right now, even though all these crazy conversations are happening and people are in all different ego states? I go back to, I'm going to be in the ego state, and through my conversations with this person, I will get them into the ego state, the adult ego state. So the critical parent, I just want to briefly describe this. And that person, critical parent, remember this is an adult in the workplace, demanding critical prejudgments, rules, and more rules. I can't say this word. I might need help, right? Authoritarian, with black and white thinking. They're traditional, they overgeneralize, they have maybe a superior attitude, patronizing. You understand the kind of example I'm sharing with you. And they're fond of words such as always, never, must, should. They point fingers, arms are folded, harsh tone of voice. You get the picture. Now, the nurturing parent is simple. They're caring, they're sympathetic, empathetic, they're sensitive, protective, warm, loving, comfortable, rescuing, and sometimes smothering. It's pretty funny. You can be that nurturing parent in the workplace. You can be that critical parent in the workplace, in your communication style with different staff members. Obviously, none of these are perfect. Now let's go into the child ego state, and that's broken down into hurt child and happy child. So the hurt child feels shame, guilt, fear. They're very cautious. Sometimes they feel rage. They feel feelings of inferiority. Sometimes they get humiliated or embarrassed, or they avoid situations, which can also be meetings, avoid meetings. They have a temper tantrum. They're impatient, self-centered, petulant, pouting, even feeling sorry for themselves. We all have experienced people like that in the workplace. Now, the happy child on the bottom is energy, a lot of energy for creativity and spontaneity and intuition, and they're joyful and they're excited and they feel safe and they feel loved. They're carefree. They use humor, and they're always seeking pleasure, and they want things and they desire things. And these are just generally happy people. And we have those people in our workplace. Now, this is the adult. The adult is focused on the here and now. Remember, that is the adult ego state, and that is our target. That is the healthiest approach for us in our communication styles. They are fact-finding, they are calm, they're rational, they're problem solvers, they're calculators, they're observant, they're self-reflective, they explore assumptions. That's so important. They decide on a course of action based on the situation, right? And so that's exactly what we need in supervisors in the workplace. They fulfill responsibilities, and they ask what, how, when, with whom, and where. And they keep an eye on outcomes, and then they adjust their work accordingly. That is the gold standard. So when you know the gold standard, you can see how this is the healthiest approach, going from one person at work, one professional using the adult ego state as a model for communication, speaking to another person at work who's using the adult ego state as a style of communication. This is where work gets done. This is where people are collaborative. This is where people form relationships, professional relationships, And this is generally where work gets done and people are happy. Now I've got some examples. What time is it? All right, so we can quickly go through some examples. Let's do this one, and please use your chat box, and Rob is going to help me with that. All right, example number 1. Your assistant is late for work, delaying your departure for an important meeting. A parent response would be, "You're hopeless. Will you ever learn to manage your time?" Have you ever heard a supervisor speak that way in your place of work? You might have. That person is using a parent response. Now, a child response to this same example, the supervisor might say, "See what you did to me? I hate it when you do this." That's a petulant child response. Now let's look at the adult response. "Next time, if you know you're going to be late, I'd appreciate it if you let me know so I can plan ahead." Perfect, right? One adult speaking in the adult ego state. Perfect. Remember?
We're getting a couple of responses, Ruth. One person said that is just terrible. I would be shocked if I heard the first response. Although there are supervisors out there who have used that.
Yeah, we all learn from the supervisors we've had in our careers.
Right.
And I've had some wonderful supervisors, and I've had some supervisors that you see them on the screen with responses such as this. So yeah, they run the gamut. It really does. All right, I'm going to go to the next example. Example number 2, a new person opens up in a new position opens up in your department. You notice that your team is tense. Parent response, "Don't worry, you'll live through this. Now just get back to work." I definitely have seen supervisors sort of dismiss their supervisees' feelings or thoughts or ideas.
Yeah.
Child response, "You're making things hard for me." This is a supervisor telling the team, "You're all making things hard for me." All right, now the adult response. "Let's plan a time to discuss the way this change will affect us." Much more rational, much more professional.
Really
All right,
good, real good comment here, Ruth, that someone says, "I've heard people talk or yell where it would make me feel like I was a kid."
Yes.
So again, they're in that ego state.
That's right. That's right. And so in that case, always respond from the adult response, because you never want to be seen in any of these other ego states that are just not productive. And hopefully, through modeling, your supervisor will see that and model it him or herself. All right, so example number 3, and then we're actually going to ask you to give us an example. But here's the last example I'm giving you. Example number 3, your team tells you that the director has set an unrealistic deadline. A parent response can be, "I don't want to hear any complaints about you having to stay late or come in early." That's absolutely a parent response. All right, a child response would be, "One day I'll show her." That's very childish. All right, so the adult response in this example, "Let's figure out how to get this done. We're a good team and we can pull this off." Again, very rational, supportive supervisor.
And also solution-based.
Yes.
This is coming at this problem from a solution-based perspective.
That's right. Perfect. All right, now we're going to ask you to use the chat box and see if you can give us an example. So we want an example, a work example, and then we're going to process together what an adult response would be. I think it's too easy to do a parent response or do a child response when our focus really is the adult response. All right, so any examples?
Yeah, there's an example here, Ruth.
Okay.
I just got to get back to it here. Let's see here. "I know it's last minute, but can I take Friday off?"
Okay, so that is a staff member
Mm-hmm.
right? Asking his supervisor. And so an adult response would be, well, you've got to be what? You've got to be rational. And so you're saying, you could say one of two things. Friday looks good for me. Please next time give me enough time so that I can get proper coverage. But yes, you can take the day off. Or it can be, Friday's really tight. If only you would have told me ahead of time. I decided to let, Mary take the day off. So I'm sorry to say you cannot. Any ideas, Rob?
No, I think you're spot on with the way that you handled that. Um, and and somewhat sorry that they didn't ask ahead of time.
Right, right, right. So that was my adult response to
Or
it.
maybe even just saying, I know this is really important to you. However,
Yeah, yeah. So someone says that my rejection sounds more like an excuse. Well, this is, sort of just an example, and I'm not there in person. This was a real example. Those are real issues that happen. So I appreciate the example that someone gave. And it could be essentially, yes, you can take off or you can't take off. Both reasons, though, require that the person really should have informed you before that they were interested in taking that day off.
yeah.
And through your conversation, you're letting them know that, but you're also answering the question, which is, yes, you can, and why you can, or no, you can't, and why you can't.
We're getting a lot of good responses to this
Great,
this question as well.
great. All right. Are there any examples that you see that you'd like to read? I mean, not examples, responses.
Someone mentioned maybe taking another day off, offering them another day off instead
That's
of the day that they
yes,
requested.
yes. That's a
Um,
very nice way to maintain the relationship and for them to know that you're still there supporting them.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's work, and there are boundaries and there are procedures to request days off.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's very good. I'm going to move right into the balancing act. So essentially, this is just a real recap, and for you as supervisors to affirm and value each employee, to communicate expectations. Remember, they can't meet your expectations if they don't even know what they are. So you need to communicate what they are. Communicate early when things are not going well, and adopt a zero tolerance for whatever that is for you and your organization. It really could be wearing a robe on TV or a t-shirt on TV, through the virtual camera, or a t-shirt, maybe a graphic t-shirt. Maybe that's like you're adopting a zero tolerance for that, or for a robe, or it could be for not being on camera when everyone is required to be on camera. Remember that. Some organizations are still having a hard time getting their staff on camera. And as a training body, NIAPers, we're asking all people to be on camera when we're doing these smaller trainings, like we can do for you, any training that we offer, but they're smaller because they're just for you and your organization. They're not like these large webinars we're doing today. And then lastly, just to emphasize the follow through, always follow through. And with that, I just want to show you the July webinars. We're going to do a wrap webinar, and that's actually with Matt Federici, who's the executive director of the Copeland Center. And then we're going to do addressing health disparities for Latino and African Americans living with major mental health conditions. We're doing the long-term epidemic of isolation and loneliness in America. And then the last one's for the month of July, Standing on the Shoulders, Stories of Our Movement. So absolutely wonderful. You'll see that in your emails, and we suggest that you register. Now, if you have any questions for us, we'd love to take them. I know it's 1 o'clock, but we will stay here and answer questions. You're welcome. So how do you deal with a coworker who is now your supervisee? So now they used to be at your level, but now you either were promoted and now they report to you. And I lost your message, but it looked like they were now avoiding you. So before things get bad, I would recommend that using that adult ego state. So that's the communication style you're going to use to have a sit down or virtual sit down and just share, I'm a little comfortable too. It's okay if we're both a little comfortable. We'll figure this out together, and we'll meet often, and we'll work on doing great work together.
And Ruth, I think that the relationship can still go on. Maybe you had a really good relationship with this person. It's just going to look different, but the relationship at its heart is still going to be there. And I think it's important that people understand that going forward. It's going to look different, but the relationship is still going to be there.
And I think avoiding it is not the way to go. So I like what you're saying. I like that you brought that question up. And I think the best thing is just to address it in the nicest way possible. However, using your rational mind, the adult ego state.
Right.
Anything else? You love the flowers. Somebody loves your flowers.
Yes, I know.
Ask to require the supervisee to not be in bed clothes for supervision. Yes, I would adopt a zero tolerance for that. That's disrespectful.
And I also think it's important that you let the person know what your expectations are, and even have them, send them to the person in an email. This is my expectation of you. You will not be in bed. You will be on camera. I will be able to hear you clearly, and just kind of spell out exactly how they should present themselves on any supervision call.
And if someone is sharing, well, they really can't do X, Y, and Z because they have technology issues or just don't know the technology well enough, which is a valid point for many people now working from home, and how to navigate all of this, well, then your role is really a helper in that process to be able to, through virtual camera, walk them through the steps to be able to be on camera, because you just don't want to discipline them right away. You want to support them and help them. So you can either do that, you can contact your IT department to help them in that respect if it's something above and beyond your comfort level. So there are areas where we're supportive and we're helpful, and then after that, all right, I know I gave you the skills, I gave you the equipment and the skills to be able to be on camera, and you're still not on camera. So now we're actually talking about something different. This is a will that you're doing. You're willfully not being on camera.
Ruth, I know this isn't a question, but I just also want to recommend, a lot of our organizations have these wonderful EAP programs that offer so many things.
Yes.
This is a time that we really need to be utilizing them. People are anxious, people are scared for a whole host of reasons. And so if we have this as a resource, use it. It's there.
It is. And they're changing all the time, the supports that they provide your employees. And so it could be anything from financial support. I mean, education on financial services and how to manage your money. Also processing school, is that something that you want to do? But also some real clinical concerns can be initially processed in terms of fears or trauma or just depression. They can process that in the beginning, and then from there refer on to a professional if that's something that's needed.
So there's a question here. It says, will you be doing webinars in August?
Yes, I just don't have the schedule yet. Let me see. We're planning some. We are planning some. I would love to tell you what they are now, but I'm not completely clear if that's going to stick. But we are 4 webinars in July, 4 webinars in August.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, we thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sticking around another 5 minutes. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. We're so happy that you keep coming back to NIAPRS time and time again. Thank you for joining us. And remember, if you want to see this webinar, the slide deck, plus the recording of today's webinar will be posted on our website. All right, everyone, take care, and thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.